we are the most sleep deprived country, or amongst the most sleep deprived countries. But how do you optimize the body? How do you get the most from the body to do what you want to do? Sleep, move, fuel, breathe, and connect.
You think the idea of plenty and abundance is actually the enemy of a healthy living?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And today on my show we have Dr. Marcus Ranney, who's an explorer, adventurer, author, and a longevity expert, and an entrepreneur as well. So many hats, Dr. Marcus. And Dr. Marcus and I have known each other for quite some time. We've engaged in professional capacity. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Very excited.
amazing.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Marcus, I want to go straight into the area of expertise that you come from, right? And a lot of your work is with corporates, with business people, individuals like ourselves. And from a LinkedIn headline perspective, or even from a newspaper headline perspective, right, you are hearing too many of these conversations. Or somebody had a heart attack at 29, 30, 40, stress levels are all-time high, mental health is being discussed, and so on and so forth. But from somebody who's running the whole piece on longevity, health, wellness, and so on and so forth, and have a ringside view on this, what's going on? Like, is it really an epidemic, or is it just because being discussed so much that we are hearing of it? It was always like this. Where do you think the compass is on this piece?
So, I think it's important for us to remember that behind every headline is a life, and I don't want to belittle that sentiment by my response. I think it is true, the media has always been and will always adopt a degree of sensationality or sensationalism when it reports about these things, because we do live in a clickbait society. But the fundamentals are what scares me the most. We are, and this is completely true, we are the most sleep deprived country, or amongst the most sleep deprived countries. The average Indian sleeps somewhere between 5 to 6 hours per night. Whereas we should be getting somewhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. And a lack of sleep can have metabolic consequences, inflammatory consequences, cardiac consequences, neurodegenerative consequences, hormonal consequences, a whole host of different things. So sleep is bad, and it's worsening year on year. We are amongst the most sedentary countries on earth. The average Indian walks somewhere between 3,500 to 4,000 steps. The prescribed optimal is somewhere around 8,000 steps. The WHO recommends 150 minutes per week on average of exercise, moderate exercise, and we're getting far, far less than that. We are protein deficient. Our environment around us is becoming more toxic, whether it's noise, sound, air, water quality, food quality, soil quality, all of these things contribute towards a worsening biosphere and ecosystem for us. So the fundamentals are significantly getting worse. We are seeing that the incidence of certain diseases like the diabetic explosion that's happening in India, which if you combine, by the way, not just diabetes type 2, but with diabetes 1 and pre-diabetes and insulin resistance and fatty liver disease, that's a population cohort almost half of urban metropolitan cities. So it's a very, very large problem that we're facing. So to answer your question, therefore, I think there is some media sensationalism, but that is probably true on the basis of a massive groundswell of change that we're seeing around the world.
And the whole conversation around some of these numbers like diabetics and cholesterol, etc. also is, there's a counter theory that they are all international Western baseline measurements. Whereas if you look at the Indian baseline measurement, which may or may not exist, maybe the numbers are not so alarming. That, I mean, for the Indian body type and the Indian environment and so on and so forth, maybe the baseline should be different. I mean, do you agree with that, or do you think that's
I think that's probably true in some instances. What I always worry about is a point extrapolated out from many points, right? And therefore a whole blanket statement being made. I don't think we have enough data anywhere in the world to say this is the ideal for X population, Y population, Z population. It is true that our genetic lineage, just because of where we've evolved from and the story of South Asia, which is one of scarcity, and therefore our body's ability to store calories in the form of fat from sugar, which is nature's most bountiful calorie source, is significantly higher than, let's say, someone in the West or a Caucasian. So now in a world where we're living in a convenience culture, where every calorie is delivered to us within 5 to 10 minutes, our body's ability now to convert and store is now a disadvantage to us. And then you layer on the poor sleep, the lack of exercise, the high stress, the long work hours, all of those things.
It's a dangerous cocktail.
Recipe for disaster.
So, Dr. Marcus, you speak about the idea of corporate athlete, right? I mean, a lot of your work draws from sports and athleticism, and you also work with sports teams in India, internationally, etc. And I quite like the parallel that you draw. So talk a bit more about the idea of corporate athlete and how, in 2-3 ways from your program, what are the ways to manage better fueling, better kind of management of the lives of corporate athletes? How do we prepare ourselves much better from a health, wellness, mental perspective?
I sort of coined this phrase because I noticed that the audience of the population in both these spheres is actually quite similar. We're talking about high performance individuals. It's just that the theater that they engage with is different. One is doing so on a sports field in actually a very structured, disciplined, supportive manner. And the other is doing it in the corporate environment in an unstructured, undisciplined, and many times unsupported manner, right? But the expectations of outcome or output is equally high, right? Whether it's winning a cup here or whether it's winning a client here, you still have that level of high performance stress that's required. So the whole thesis, therefore, was what can I take from my learnings in this world, the high performance sport world, and apply it to the high performance corporate world. And of course, all of us want to consider ourselves a high performing, energy rich individual. So it's not about slow living, it's not about slowing down, it's about how do you optimize the body, how do you get the most from the body to do what you want to do. So that was sort of the narrative arc to link the story together. And then, you know, the fundamentals are essentially the same. I talk about the 5 pillars, which is sleep, move, fuel, breathe, and connect. And what these basically are, sleep is all about recovery, because we forget that nature's most freely available performance enhancing drug or intervention is sleep.
Amazing.
The body's ability to recover from the day and set you up for the next day. And there's so much that can go in there. The second is moving the body. Our bodies were designed or have evolved to move in all shapes and forms. It could be sport, it could be aerobic, it could be dance, it could be household chores, it could be walking your dog, it could be strength training. Our bodies need all of these various things to get the most out of it. Then I talk about fuel. Again, you know, you're in the media world, so I'll share this. I think language and semantic is critical in success. So I'll never talk about exercise and diet. I think those words are onerous, negative. They make people in a high cortisol state just listening to it. But if you talk about the language as movement and fuel, it's suddenly more welcoming. And I think it can become
more natural. It's something that you do either which ways.
Exactly. So fueling the body is, if I had to take a machine like a car and I had to infuse it with the right type of fuel, I wouldn't dream of putting diesel in a petrol engine, right? So in the same way, if your body is the machine, how do I fuel it with the right macros and micros and calories so that we can achieve the most amount of output? Then there's breathe, which is all about stress mitigation. Some stress is good, but a lot of stress is bad. And there are different types of good stress and bad stress and how you can apply that to the body. So breathing is about how you control stress and make it your friend or your ally. And fifth is connect. Connect with yourself. Connect with your colleagues and connect with nature and the world around us. That's the bigger picture of everything. So these are my 5 pillars. It's as basic and fundamental as that.
And the whole theory of longevity as well. Now there's a whole conversation that we can all live forever, right? There was some hot mic drop where Xi Jinping said that we can transplant our organs and live for 150 years.
That's right, yes.
Right? So there's this whole longevity science of saying that we can keep transfusing our blood and changing our organs and live forever. Versus, I think what you talk about is that how do you live whatever you want to live in the best possible way. So let's talk a bit about what is your theory around longevity. Is it about living longer, or is it about living better for the years that you live?
So if I had a whiteboard here, Dheeraj, I would draw two axes. On the x-axis going along the bottom, that would be lifespan. So how many years are we living? And on the y-axis going towards the top, I would describe health span. How healthy are those years, right? So on the x-axis, there's a lot of work. I mean, all the tech bros in Silicon Valley, Brian Johnson, Peter Diamandis, Tony Robbins, Ray Kurzweil, they're all talking about this idea of immortality. I mean, Brian Johnson.
Age as a key driver.
Exactly. And they wear t-shirts saying, don't die, right? That's the philosophy, right? I'm not a subscriber to that. I like the idea, and I think our cultural values that we have in this part of the world is very much aligned towards a cyclicity of birth, death, and rebirth, right? And this idea that we have a certain amount of time, how do we enjoy it doing the things we want to, and have a body which is as healthy for as long as possible? So I sort of describe it as healthier for longer. How do we extend the health span coefficient so that the diseases which would typically happen even today, actually it used to be in the 60s, now people are getting those chronic diseases in their late 20s and early 30s. How do we push that out back again so that we're living a healthy life for long, so we can do all the things that we enjoy doing?
I want to probe a bit around the several protocols around. Of course, I mean, so you don't want to use words like exercise and diet and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, all of that is part of what the normal people are hearing, right? So there are diet fads and there are exercise fads, and there is, steep walking versus flat walking, right? And there's so many influencers now who are making videos. Some have titles of doctors, and now if you talk to a normal person, right, between all the inputs that you're getting, one thing cancels the other, right? And to normal people, like, if I were to listen to everything, I would not be able to eat anything, exercise anything, do anything, right? So how do we reconcile this hyper input, multiple points of views, and what you're told works today, suddenly 3 months later, you realize, oh my God, Ozempic was the medicine. 3 months back, everybody was queuing up for it, and today you're saying, oh my God, it's the most dangerous thing to happen. So, of course, things are evolving, and you can't say that don't evolve. But how do you make sense of what is right, what is not right, which side of the fence do you commit yourself to?
So a few basic principles. Number one thing that I adhere myself to is strong convictions loosely held. Which is, I look at the data. If I'm convinced by the data, then I'll accept it. But I'm humble enough to appreciate that something contradictory may come, and therefore I should change my perspective on it, right? That's really important, particularly in science. Science is an iterative process. There is no truth in science, right? So that's the first thing. I think the second is that there's nothing which is too good to be true. If it is, it's either too good or it's not true, right? It's not good, it's not good. So everything we see and hear on social media, which is primarily the person who shouts the loudest, has the strongest voice in the room.
Or has the time to make 2 videos every day.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's important. And we'll take you as an example, right? The journey that you've been on. We started with really understanding your unique biological footprint or blueprint, right? What is it about your bloods? What is it about the digital devices? What is it about your imaging? And it's only based on that foundational work can we then suggest, okay, for you, Dheeraj, A, B, C, D, E is what your body requires. Not what Instagram tells you should be doing, not what the headlines tell you, but what your body requires. And then the most important is the closure loop, which is, let's say we give you intervention A to do. I need to be in a position to track that over a period of time using a particular biological signature, what I would call a biomarker, and see whether there's any improvement or deterioration in that. Because if it's not shifting, then clearly intervention A is not right for you, and then we try something else, right? So that for me is very important. I think the personalization can come through data centricity and longitudinal sort of journey or protocolization, so we can see how people change over time. And the remembrance that we are all a universe of n equals 1. What works for Dheeraj may not hold true for Marcus.
So it's not that you watch a podcast or you watch a stuff and you can just buy it off the shelf and administer yourself. That you're not on that theory. You're saying it has to be administered to your specific biological needs.
And even the stuff we'll talk about today, I say it every time I'm on a platform, which is, guys, don't believe me. I mean, do your own science, do your own research, and then if you're convinced, then try it. But make sure if you're trying it, there's a way of tracking it, so that you can see the outcome.
And a spin-off question from that, I mean, we know that I was a cynic when I walked into this program, and I've been a convert, and I've been on and off. I've been falling on, but coming back, and so on and so forth. But lots of changes have happened within me with this whole theory and practice. Are you seeing broad change, delta, with all the body of work you're doing with people, corporates, etc.? Is there acceptance? Is there still resistance, or you think we're still on the surface of this whole?
No. I think there's genuine. So for me, if I think back, I've sort of been banging this drum for about 10 years, plus minus. There has been a monumental, seismic shift in the way individuals today perceive their body and their health. A lot of this was catalyzed by the pandemic, for sure. Because we all suddenly realized how important our health was in our ability to survive that dark time that our species collectively experienced at the same time, right? So that's been a massive catalyst. I think the second shift has been a generational one. Two generational shifts happening in India. One is you have a cohort of individuals who are now entering their early 30s. And they are beginning to see in themselves body changes that they didn't expect. And that's a huge cohort number that's happening. So we're seeing, for example, in the female biology, perimenopause is happening earlier than it is in Western counterparts. And the number of women in the sort of the corporate world who are being exposed to content and being aware of these things, talking about these things. For men, it's around low testosterone values, etc. So that demographic shift is happening there. And also there is a younger group who are super connected online, and there are some interesting behavioral shifts happening there as well. I know cigarette smoking is going down, alcohol consumption is going down, right? So there are some societal changes which are happening under the surface as well. So it's seismic for sure. It's no longer lip service. But now people are in the confused state. Okay, I'm aware. What do I do? Who do I go to? You know, what's the engagement?
Do you buy a pill off the shelf and start having magnesium, or is there a science to it?
That's right.
Where we are. So Dr. Marcus, we spoke about borrowing from sports as a metaphor. You personally engage in extreme environment. You trek, you go to extreme places. In fact, your book talks about that as well. What are the learnings from that environment for individuals like ourselves who are not exposed to that? What should we borrow from there?
I think a big thread that I discovered, so when I wrote that first book, At the Human Edge, the whole idea was I was studying these different extreme environments, looking at how the body adapts and excels in those environments, and what we can take away from there. And as I wrote about these things, there's a chapter on running marathons, there's a chapter on climbing Everest, there's a chapter on surviving in the Arctic, etc. The biggest takeaway I got was the power of human resiliency, which is that we think that we achieve X because our body did Y. It's actually our brain and our mind, its ability to overcome those challenges and allow us to enter a state to achieve those things. And that's why I finished the book actually with a chapter which was never part of the original series, which is called Mind Over Matter, which is that every one of the amazing endurance athletes that I'd interacted with or spent time with or researched, they had the ability for their brain and their mind to take them to places which you and I as mere mortals consider impossible to go to. But with enough practice, with enough training, we can each get there. And I love doing it because of that. I love to really go deep into my mind, the darkest recesses, and see, okay, now where further can I push myself to?
So it's about training your mind.
Absolutely.
And of course, body and everything.
Absolutely. The body is the vehicle, and the mind then can be applied to any sphere of life. Because if you have the resiliency to achieve outcome X, you can take that strength that fortitude, that resiliency, and then apply it even into your corporate environment, right? When you're dealing with your client or with your peer, because you suddenly realize how amazingly incredible your body is.
And what you could achieve. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
We spoke a bit, Dr. Marcus, about personalization, being able to track your parameters. You talk about biomarkers over a longitudinal range and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Talk a bit about the use of data in this whole game, right? I mean, how important is data? How do we track it? We also spoke about there aren't large-scale data available as benchmarks.
Yeah.
So what is the role of data in this space?
So for me, the principle is I can't treat what I can't measure.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that whole idea of closing the loop. I don't think that principle needs to be in the face of every single person. I'll give you an example. There are some individuals who are highly motivated by seeing their sleep scores, right? You're wearing a ring, I know, which is tracking your sleep, and it'll be available on a dashboard to you, and you can see your metrics, total sleep duration, REM sleep, deep sleep, heart rate variability, all of those things. So there are people, perhaps people like you and I, who when they see that information, they get inspired to be better and to do better and to reinforce that, that behavioral paradigm.
Because we're so metrics driven in our minds. Right?
Exactly. And then there's the converse. There's another individual who is completely overwhelmed by that data, or they may say, Doc, I wake up feeling refreshed, but my sleep score is showing I was slept really poorly, and now I get into this vicious negative feedback loop, right? I either don't trust the data, or I start doing things to sabotage myself. So I think the role for an individual like me is to understand the person, and then to either make data the hero, or make data right in the background, and then allow them to still get the benefit of that information, but not that they're chasing numbers in any particular way. So the way I sort of think about interfaces today, and there are so many because there's a huge commoditization with devices, right? There's so many new rings, bands, devices you can strap on. I'm always of the opinion that let data fall to the background. Let the insights, let the inferences, let practicality of what you need to do be the hero. And then if someone wants to dive, they can dive in as deep as they want. But don't scare people or overwhelm them with too much.
Too much of it can be dangerous as well.
Absolutely.
And adjacent to that is the idea of AI, right? And I don't know how the doctor community is taking AI because I'm sure everybody is arriving at the doctor's door with some diagnosis and a prescription from ChatGPT, right? So how do you feel, and of course things will evolve, how do you think AI is impacting the longevity science, the medical practice, and so on and so forth? Is it just a tool? Is it possible that like people are blaming advertising that the bottom end of all the advertising work will actually be done by AI. So will that happen to medicine as well? That you don't need GPs anymore?
You don't need GPs, you need GPTs or something. Look, I won't have a crystal ball, but in 2017, I gave a TED talk where I was conversing with the idea that by 2030, I believe that 90% of all consultations will be within autonomous digital intelligence, right? And this is in the days when Siri was just coming onto the market. Alexa was just beginning to be introduced by things. So I think there's no doubt there are advantages to it because it allows the individual, the practitioner to scale, to have sort of a co-pilot, all of these things. The worries which you were describing, which is when people get a definitive diagnosis or they think they've gotten a definitive diagnosis and then have a prescriptive plan and then execute on that without that human intelligence layer. We use those agents in our practice today. But I think in the right hands, where it can be a baseline and then the human doctor then sits on top of that information, that's very helpful because suddenly you can see 20 people in an hour as opposed to seeing a few people.
It helps you scale up.
Absolutely, absolutely. But until the right checks and balances are there in place, I think it's going to take time. Classic example is we still see a lot of hallucinatory problems. So we feed the same data set to different LLM models and they will all come up with a slightly different interpretation. But then you repeat that exercise 3 times and each time the interpretation is subtly different as well, right? So, so that is an intrinsic challenge. but there are much smarter brains working on this problem globally.
But you're excited about it? Not excited about it?
I'm excited because I think it can fundamentally democratize health.
Yeah.
It can allow individuals anywhere on earth to get access to a decent quality of healthcare.
Yeah.
And the other advantage to this is that our human brain is limited in its ability to see pattern recognitions and cross interpretation. So I think the big data problem that AI could potentially unlock in helping us understand unique, let's say, metabolic signatures or cellular pathways or drug-drug interactions, all kinds of things could potentially be unlocked through this over the next few years. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this space.
Interesting, nice.
Yeah.
And from a larger India perspective, right, we started the conversation talking about, sedentary lifestyles, not sleeping enough, not walking enough, protein deficiency, and so on and so forth. So say 10 years out from now, from an India perspective, if you were to look at a positive scenario, what changes would you expect in India from a health, lifestyle, well-being, practices, behaviors perspective?
Optimistically,
yes,
right? I think we would have shifted from a curative to a preventative model. I think we would have done that, because there was too much financial pressures to solve for a curative model in society. We can't ape the West. I often remind people that the US last year, this would have been 2023 data now. In 2023, I believe the US spent somewhere north of $4 trillion on their healthcare costs alone, right? About 20% of their GDP, something like this. That's greater than our GDP currently. So we can't ape the models that have happened in other parts of the world. So I think either because of sort of financial modeling or sort of demographic shifts, we will move from curative to preventative. I think that's number one. I think the second thing that we'll see a lot more of is the seamless integration of data into our day-to-day lives. Right now, it's still very much a few people have devices and it's still sporadic to extract the information from there. I think the penetration, commoditization, miniaturization will all feed into personalization, and a lot more people will start to have things.
It's possible to have that at scale.
At scale, and more than scale, it will begin to influence the decisions that people make. Right? There's no reason why the food delivery app can't talk to my glucose monitoring device so that I know exactly which of the foods that I can or shouldn't be ordering.
Ban you from ordering a gulab jamun.
That might be a little bit too. It depends how heavy-handed we want to be. I know there's a syntax which is almost upon us, but it could be that, or it could even just be a recommendation layer.
Engine,
exactly, right? So I think we can dream of a better version, but it'll take a lot of effort to get there.
And what's the one thing that we need to watch out for? I mean, of course, you spoke about multiple things like sleep and sugar and walk. What was the one biggest epidemic, if you were to call it?
The single biggest celebration in society today, and when I say celebration, I mean everything from venture dollars through to marketing campaigns, is the celebration around convenience. Human beings were not designed to evolve for convenience. It is in the inconvenience and the discomfort that we get the most amazing advantage to the human body. The cold shower, the intermittent fast, the calorie restriction, the humidity, all of these things. This is where the body actually excels and adapts and becomes a better version of ourselves. But if we continue to design for convenience, where every calorie is spoon-fed into our mouth in less than 5 minutes, where we never have to leave our homes for anything, where every transportation picks us up from one door and drops us up to the other door, where OTTs stream information continuously all the time, we will go down a path where I don't know what it means to be a human anymore.
So you're saying the idea of plenty and abundance is actually the enemy of a healthy living. Interesting. So just shifting a bit of gears on this.
Pretty dark thought, but
But from a medical practice, and that's what you do at a core, to setting up, running a business, being an entrepreneur. How's that been?
Oh wow. Look, it's been 5 years so far. It's been a really interesting journey. Nothing through med school prepared me for this journey. I've come to realize which aspects I enjoy and which aspects I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think the ability or the wisdom of age and the certain sort of seniority that brings allows one to then double down and spend more time doing one versus the other. So I will figure out how to craft my evolutionary journey through this phase as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any highlights or any suggestions for people wanting to start a setup coming from a very deep core expertise and wanting to become an entrepreneur, etc., etc. Any quick learnings for them?
I think so. My biggest strength has been my biggest weakness, which is that, I'm a technocrat, I'm a domain expert, very good at solving for ABC. But with entrepreneurship, you have to solve from A to Z.
Right.
And therefore, you should have the ability to attract the right people, including co-founders.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, particularly if you are a domain expert. The ability to bring a co-founder or co-founders on to do the other parts of the business is really important. And certainly if I had my way again, I would do it in a way where I started with a group of people rather than the individual sort of, that's number one. And that's probably been my biggest learning. The second learning has been the perspective of time. Entrepreneurship is celebrated strangely through the media, where you hear about the high winds of fundraising. But that's a minuscule aspect of the whole journey. And the day-to-day of an entrepreneur is equally filled with, in fact, there are more lows than,
I can imagine,
than highs. So looking at the perspective of, what's the arc, reminding oneself of what you build, the impact, the gratitude that comes from customers, clients, etc., hugely rewarding. And you have to oftentimes keep reminding yourself of it. And I think the third is the critical nature of self-care. You can't do this if you can't be running at 100 miles an hour every day and think you're going to do this for 5-7 years. You have to design for a lifestyle where you're investing in yourself. And that includes all the stuff we've spoken about. Because oftentimes it's you, the entrepreneur, that has to bring that energy to the rest of the team. Your clients, your investors, your stakeholders, etc. And if you haven't spent the time investing in yourself, you'll burn out very quickly.
And and as an icon or as a flag bearer of health, wellness, longevity, what is your regimen like? What can we take away from your personal regimen, your personal behaviors? One or two things that can be inspiring for all of us.
It's the basics. I don't try to complicate it. I mean, maybe the stuff I do might seem a little bit daunting to a new person coming into this, but I don't compromise on sleep at all. As a family, we have a public service announcement from our Amazon Alexa device that goes off at 9 p.m. That reminds us all it's time for bed.
Amazing.
And then we all sort of wind down. I don't compromise on exercise or movement. For me, I enjoy running. I enjoy all the outdoor sports that we've spoken about before. I've recently become a fan of pickleball.
Nice,
I do strength training. After I turned 40 a few years ago, I realized I need to build muscle and maintain bone health. So I make sure I get anywhere between 90 minutes to hours of movement in a day, whether it's through walking, gym, whatever it is, but that's really important for me. I'm very cautious about what I put into my body, especially because, like so many people probably watching this, travel is a big part of lifestyle. You have to be more
and
cautious.
That's when you get thrown off, right?
Exactly. Because your discipline, your routine gets thrown for a toss. And also, frankly, the institutionalization of how we've created life doesn't allow for the best adopted habits to happen. Airports don't have fresh salad bars, right? Aeroplanes
or the
don't
airline
serve
food, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Largely all carbs.
Yeah, exactly. So being very, very careful in what I put into the body. I like to get myself checked every 6 to 8 months to make sure that all my metrics are there. I take a specific set of supplements to improve the body, and then I'll do a whole bunch of stuff above and beyond that, which people might find a little bit more fringe, but the basics are there first. You have to get the basics right, and then you can enjoy an experiment after that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Great conversation, Dr. Marcus. Thank you for doing it.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks.